Hello, welcome to this video. So in today's video, we're just going to cover top 10 Tailwind concepts I wish I knew before. So as I know, most of you are using Tailwind in making most of your projects, and there are some of the concepts in Tailwind that I use on daily basis, and I was not using them before. So I want to share those concepts, and maybe you may find one or two on the list that is more useful to you. And by the way, if you can comment with the one you have just found new in this video, you can let me know in the description or in the comment section. And also, if you have one that you have not added on the list and you think is very important, please comment with it. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the first one, extracting classes with the at apply. Now this is most people, when Tailwind came out, they really hate the concept of classes. So even me, my first time, so this is, by the way, the basic app I have localhost 3000, and I have this page that is showing this list. And then I have another page I created called Tailwind CSS, and inside I have this page, and I went ahead and I also opened it in a new tab, Tailwind CSS, so that we'll be adding them here. So most people, when Tailwind came out, and it was really different from all others that we had seen, everyone was complaining that the classes are too many. Okay, so what they did to make people transition very well and still using Tailwind, they brought this at apply at modifier. So you have this at apply. So let me show you how at apply works. So for instance, we might just have for instance a button. So I'm just going to come here and make a regular button just like this, and let's make this button look nice. So we might just give this let's say, for instance, get started. Okay, and let's give it some classes. So you just come here and say class name, and you start padding y3, px maybe 8, maybe 6, and then you say maybe bg slate 900, text slate 50, and you can just go ahead and say, for instance, rounded maybe md. Okay, let's first see so far how this one looks. Okay, so we have this. Let me just go ahead, and I'm just going to be putting them into different sections so that we understand these techniques. So I'm just going to say section, and in this section I'm just going to start with h2, which is we are starting with at apply. So just going to say at apply. Okay, Tailwind at apply, and here let's just go ahead, of course, give this a padding y maybe of 8. Okay, so let me just put here this button. Okay, so we have this button styled very well. Okay, as you can see, we can just even go ahead and put, for instance, some hover. So when you say hover, bg slate 800, maybe could just say 800, or we could yeah. So you have this is your button. Okay, now but you look at all the classes that we have used. So some people, when this started, okay, they, even up to now, some people hate these Tailwind classes being so many. So you can still default this to normal CSS. How? So for instance, I want to make this one 2 buttons. If I'm just going to make this, you may find that I have this, and I want to create another button, maybe a primary button, where I have this slate changed to blue. Okay, let me just go even here, just say blue. Okay, and let me just go ahead and say margin bottom of maybe 4. So I might just have like something like this. Can I just put these ones in flex dot flex gap of maybe 8, sorry, dot gap of 8, just like this. So clearly you can see this is normal tailwind. What's that? Let me first remove this. Okay, so I have two buttons of tailwind. Okay, now this whole thing, if you're not used to it, at least for now, I'm really okay with this. Okay, but people like extracting and defaulting how the way CSS used to do things. Okay, for instance, this one would be named, for instance, button secondary, and this one to be named button primary. Okay, so we can also do tailwind in normal CSS. So you can just get all these classes and for instance cut all these classes and simply go to global.css and let's write them in normal CSS. For instance, you can say this is btn secondary, and then inside here we use @apply. So we can just use @apply and put all these classes. So now these classes, now they represent this class. So you can get all these classes and add them under one CSS class, just like this, and then use this is how you use the @apply. So all these classes will be applied on this one class. So you just go and use btn secondary. So copy this, and by the way, to show you that the styles are gone, so if I just go back to the page here and let me just put btn primary, just like this, now you can see that we still have now the old way of styling. Okay, so you can just say have btn secondary, and then we can also cut all this into btn primary. For instance, let me go to CSS and create another class, and I say dot btn primary, and then you say @apply, and then apply all these classes to this. And you can use this concept. Let's go ahead, of course, dot btn primary. Let me just go and see. This should work now. Okay, so you can see now we have the secondary and the primary button. So you can see you're having all this, but you are still using tailwind. Okay, now the advantage of this, maybe you could be creating custom components. For instance, you create a card, for instance your own cards, and use it just like that. Okay, so be careful to use this one, because it takes us back to the writing normal CSS, which again doesn't make sense, because Tailwind came to make the inline styling very easy using the different utilities. So if you default back to this one, it's just like writing the normal CSS. Okay, but in some circumstances, if necessary, and you don't want to see really big classes and you want to default back to your CSS, then you can write this using the apply modifier like this. Okay, so that is a nice one that I think I wanted to share with you. It is really nice to use and still have the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to our page here, and I'm just going to make this one it'll be just like this, and let's give them text to Excel font medium, or just symbol and then with, I don't know if this one is necessary, 10 Tailwind 10 concepts, one will be a bonus, so there are 11, one will be a bonus. So concepts, and we can also give it some class name, font, bold, text 3, Excel, and maybe we put in the center. I don't know if it is necessary. I just first see. Okay, so the first one you have seen is at apply. Let's go to the second one. So the second one is Tailwind rare useful classes and modifiers. So this one, let me just go just a second. Tailwind and this one's supposed to be and modifiers. Okay, so you will see that we have these Tailwind. There are some classes and modifiers that you have never had before, or you have not even used it before. Let's start with a modifier group. So I'm just going to go to this, okay, and I'm just going to duplicate. So go back here. I'm going to duplicate this section, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, have another section, and I'm just going to actually use the thing we have just studied, the at. So you can also just say section, and then you say at apply, at apply, and then you can apply, for instance, padding on the whole intersection. For instance, you can just say padding Y16. You can just go ahead, and I think this is the most important, like to put sections and you give them like some padding between them. Okay, yep. So let me just go to the second concept, and let me also give them some background colors. So this is going to be BG, let's say pink 50, and let me just say this is going to be BG slate, maybe 900, and I have to change this to text. Yes, just change everything to text white for now. And okay, so let's just see. Okay, so we have these sections so that we can just like differentiate them. So now the second concept that you're just going to look at is, and let's also go ahead and apply the px of 8. Okay, so now let me just go and work on the second one. The second one is going to be the second one is extracting classes. We have done that one. Tailwind rare useful classes. We are starting with group. So to demonstrate this, I'm just going to have one button, and I'm just going to have one button just like this, and then you see the second one is Tailwind, these modifiers. Okay, so now I'm having this button, and I'm just going to go back and I copy all my classes back here. Just in this, let me just copy all the classes we have so that we don't get confused. So I'm copying back, removing primary, and yes, we're putting this one. Okay, so now here I can have I have this button. So to demonstrate this concept of group, so the first concept I'm going to cover is using the group modifier. Okay, the first one is to use the group modifier. So the group modifier, I'm just also going to come here and I put p dot font, maybe bold. This is the group modifier. Okay, group modifier. Let's give like padding y of 3. So the group modifier, let's demonstrate with an icon. So I'm just going to change this to a loading icon. So for instance, we can have this. For instance, we can have an icon. We're going to have an icon. For instance, let me just go ahead, and I've already installed Lucid React icons, so I'm just going to have, for instance, a download icon, download cloud, I think, and then I'm just going to go here and also have maybe a span, and I put this. Okay, let's give this one a class name. So I'm giving this one a class name. For instance, you can first look at the button. Okay, so of course make the button to be, first of all, download. Just going to change this text to download, and then of course make it flex items center, and then just like this, and you can put a margin right here of maybe 2 to put some space on this icon, just like this. So this icon has no problem. So just put a hover. For instance, I want something to happen on this button, on this icon, when I hover the whole entire button. So for instance, if we say that we want to change the color of this icon, for instance, say hover. If I just say hover and I just give it, for instance, text green, okay, text green, maybe 400. So if I just do that, so if I hover the icon, you see that the icon is actually changing the color. You are seeing that, but then you don't want a person to hover on the icon. Someone should hover on the button, and then the icon changes color. And this might be also, for instance, animating it. For instance, we can also just say hover, okay, and we say, for instance, animate, and we say, for instance, ping. Now you're just going to talk about animations in detail. For now, I want to show you, for instance, okay, so you can have like this weird animation. Okay, I think so you can just have like that, or could just, when you say animate, maybe parse. Okay, so we just go here, and you can see that this is happening when I hover on the icon, but I want this to hover when I hover on the button itself. Okay, I don't want to hover the icon, because most probably a person is not going to know that you have applied a hover on the icon only. They will simply hover the button. So to do that, you can simply create a group. So this button becomes a group, okay, that is going to trigger the hover. So you can just come here and say just simply a group. So when you add this group, you can use group to do a lot of things. For instance, instead of just saying hover, now you can say group hover, and even this one you can just say group hover. So now this one, I think it is the same thing like in CSS, whereby you said if you hover this, for instance, you can just say button. For instance, you say button hover, and then you go and you say, for instance, icon, change the icon, just something like this, okay, in CSS. So if you have here, you create a group which is the parent element, and then you can affect the child element, on using this group. So for instance, if now you said this is happening now when I hover the button, not the icon. Okay, I think you understand what I'm saying. Okay, I think you understand what I'm saying. You can change the class of using that. Okay, and you can use this concept, create drop down. Okay, you can use it to create drop down. You can use it to make two tips. All those ones you can try those examples. That's how the group modifier let me hope you have understood. Okay, using the group modifier. Maybe let me just give one more example. I'm just going to have a flex, and inside here I'm just going to have two boxes. So if I have dot width maybe 14 and height 14, just like this. Let's give these ones different BGs. Okay, just for instance BG green 200, and let me create another box. Okay, let me create another box here which is the same but BG maybe red 200, just like this. So I have two boxes. Okay, let's see. Okay, they just give them some small padding Y of 8. Okay, great. So I want to, for instance, if I hover, okay, on the group, so for instance I can create this as a group. Okay, trigger the hover. Okay, so let me just give this one the way I've given padding. Let me give it a BG of yellow, maybe 300, so that we can see these other ones. So you see that I have a box which is yellow containing two small boxes. Okay, this one and this one. So if I hover on this, so if I just go ahead and say group, okay, and then for instance I've created now a group containing two items. For instance, I can say when you do hover, if you do a group hover, then for this box I want to say BG maybe BG, let's just change it to slate 800. Okay, and then for this one let's just say group hover, and you can just say BG slate, not BG slate, BG red maybe 600. So if we just do that, now check. So if I hover on the yellow box, the children, they do change the color. So I think now you understand clearly what the group means. Okay, so let me just go ahead and remove this one. Doesn't look nice. Okay, so I guess you have understood the concept. Now let's move on to the next one. So the next one is the divide. Okay, so this divide is nice. Let's just say we have three things. Okay, we have three items. I'm just going to go here down. After this flex, let me put another one. Let me start also just with a flex with a padding of 8. Okay, and let's add some items here. So I'm just going to add an item which has px of 4, just like this, and let's say this is item 1. Okay, I'm just going to duplicate this one to be like 3 items. Okay, so now if you go back here, I have item 1, item 2, and item 3. Let me just give them the names. Item 2 and then item 3. So now if you are thinking, for instance, how divide works, okay, if you're thinking, you could just come here and you give these ones borders, okay. You could just come and say, for instance, I want to say border right, okay, border right, and of course you would first say border R, and then you say maybe border gray, okay, maybe 50 or 100, maybe 200, just like this. Okay, so if you just do that, you see you have put a border on the right. Now you could just go ahead and do this to all of them, of course, just like this. And then of course you cannot put it here because you don't want it to go to this side. You have to remove, make sure you remove this one. So you have to come and remove this one so that it makes sense. The last one doesn't always contain the border. So the divide can actually do this with ease. So let's remove all these. Okay, remove this. Okay, so now instead I'm just going to paste this here in the parent. Of course this one doesn't make sense. It just like try to put it on the parent. You can see this side. Now here instead of border right, you simply say divide x. So I would say, for instance, divide, and you say x, and then you also say divide, and you give it a color. So you divide x, and divide, you give it any color you want. So the divide is giving border radius to the children item in whatever container you have. So if you have these items, they're inside a container, you give their container a divide. It can be x. We are going to do another example for x, but right now you will have the same thing that we did, okay, but this time in just one line. Okay, you can imagine how that one is useful, most especially if you're just making a nav bar and you have some things which need this kind of stuff. Okay, so this is really helpful. And similarly, you can do it on, just going to duplicate this. You can also do that on flex. So you just say flex core to make them just in vertical. And now instead of saying divide x, doesn't make sense. If you just check them now, they are facing down. This doesn't make sense. You want to put the border underneath them, like the border bottom. So instead you change from divide x to divide y, and you see give the same thing, gray 100 or any color you want, and you have now this border running at the bottom. And this can be very nice if you're just making you want this effect of borders. Of course you can just change these two from px into py, so that it makes sense also. Okay, just like this. Okay, so you see we have used the py, and so let me just also go and give some heading, the one we gave, for instance, here. I'm just going to go and put it just here, just like this. And this one was the divide utility, divide utility. Okay, so this is really nice. Okay, moving on to the next one. Padding y, let me just put it, say padding bottom for now, padding bottom maybe just remove padding on this, and let's put padding bottom of 3 and padding top of 8, just like that. See, okay, just like this. So just go to the next one. The next one is the opacity. So to show you the opacity, how this one works, let's go and copy the button. So just going to copy this button, bring it down here, just like this, and now I just want to show you, we can just use opacity. Okay, so for instance, on this BG, instead of just giving it 800, I could just say BG BG opacity. Okay, so you can just say something BG BG opacity, and you say, for instance, let's just say if you just do, for instance, 90% or 80%, this means that you can see it reduces to 80%. We could also say 10%. So this is, for instance, the alpha. So you can see here the alpha, the for instance, that now becomes 0.1. They say hover, you can see hover, and it will just say take the BG opacity, or even on this one you can just say BG blue 900. Okay, and then you can also just do something like this 40, and if you hover here, of course this is giving you the RGB. Okay, I want to show you that one also. You can see right now, apart from the hover, but you have the opacity also brought down. So this one is the RGB, and then you pass in the alpha. Okay, if you just do stroke. But if you want to use opacity, you can just say BG blue 900, and you can just say BG opacity. Okay, BG opacity, and you say, for instance, maybe 20%, and then on hover you can change it to 10%, and you can see how the blue now, how it looks like. And let's say just maybe return it to 0. BG opacity to 0. Does this one even apply? Yeah, so you can see this, the background disappears, and you can just say 100%, and this one restores it, I guess. Yeah, so you can see 100% is opacity of 1, and 0% is opacity of 0. So this is how you can use the opacity if you have not used it before. Okay, so the next is the SR. So the SR, to understand the SR, is when you have an icon. For instance, you can have another button, the same similar button, but this time you just make this one print. Okay, print. Now you have here the print icon. It's a print or printer, I guess, something like that. Let's go and see this button. Yep, so we have this, the printer, and you might not want to specify this print. You want only to show the icon only, and the most times when we have that, let me first comment this. So you want something like this. You only want the icon of printing to be the one showing, but you don't want to show the text. Now this is good if just like for people who are going to be browsing around, but for people who are using screen readers, those ones who are disabled and are using screen readers, this is not good for them. They will not understand this icon or the purpose of this button. Now what you could do is leaving this one. Okay, of course if you just put like this, it will be shown here, but you see giving this class class name, and you say SR only. So if you just say this screen reader only, means that this text will not be visible for normal human beings, but it will be visible only to the screen reader. So you see, you have your button still here, and you're going to see people using it in most cases, and you don't know what it is doing, but this is for accessibility purposes. So it will be only present for only the screen readers only, and the normal people will not see it. Great. The next one is accent. So to see what accent does is I'm just going to go ahead and put here some input. So if you just put, for instance, let me just say flex, and maybe you put here a label, maybe for checkbox, and you just say here check me, maybe, and then you're just going to have an input of checkbox, of course, just like this. Name, let's say checkbox, and ID of also checkbox. Okay, so I'm not going to style it so much, but I want to show you what accent does. So right now, if I just try to see what we have, if I check, look at how it is showing. Let me just go and give some padding. Why? Okay, so if you just go here and see how this one works, yet if you check right now, it has this default of blue. Okay, but you can send that one by using the accent. So if we just give this one class name, and you simply say accent, okay, and let's just give it, for instance, accent pink. So if you see accent pink, like 400, let's now go and check, and you see now the checkbox all of a sudden changes the accent. For sure, this was hard to style in CSS to be able to check the checked state of the checkbox. It was really not easy. So this is what the accent does. Okay, you can pass in the accent and you put the color of the accent. Okay, so we have just looked at that. The next one is the curate color. So the curate, I'm just going to put another label here after this one. Okay, and we could just go ahead and also give like gap here of 4. I'm just going to go ahead and also duplicate the same thing, show you the curate, what curate does. I'm just going to change this into now text area. Just say text area, just like this. And of course, if you're just in Typescript, to give you a tip, change these ones into a number, just like this, 30, for instance, and then also change this one to, for instance, 10, just like that. Typescript will not accept, it will be giving you some errors. So maybe this is a message. Now if you just go ahead and check this out, this looks like this. Okay, if I type in or the cursor, let me just first give it some padding so that we can see. So let me give it a class name, and let's just say padding of 8. Let's give padding of 8. Okay, and let's give also the color. Okay, so the color might be just like by default is white. Can we give the text, for instance, text black? Just even text black still works. Okay, so if you just do this, you can look at, so this blinking thing is what they call a curate. Okay, that blinking cursor is what they call a curate. So if you just come here and you say, for instance, curate, okay, so if you just say, come and say curate, you can give the color. Is that the spelling of curate? Let me see which and just wait a minute. Let me just hope is just like double R. I'm not sure. Let me just get the right thing. I don't know how I cross the Tailwind site here. I'm just going to search for curate. Is it curate? I don't know, like the spelling somehow is, I'm not seeing my spelling. Is it curate or cause can I put just like late? We have layer curate. Really, I cannot just like, may just be using Q. Maybe this is just curate. And I've remembered one thing here, line clamp. I will just also talk about it. Let me just say text area, because that's where we can use it. Tailwind UI, core concepts. I cannot imagine. Let me just here say curate Tailwind. Maybe it will just correct me. Curate. Is it called curate? Maybe just a Tailwind. Tailwind changing text area cursor. Maybe was it like cursor something? I don't know. There is cursor, but that's not the one. Okay, it is caret, not curate, guys. It is caret. So just come here and we say yeah, just going it is curate, and then you just say you can give it any color. Let's also give it pink. So you just give it, for instance, and you can just say, for instance, so you could just say that, just change it to pink, like maybe 300, just like that. Okay, so you just go back now. So this, you can see now it has changed the color to actually pink. It might just be something that is you want to change for your styling purposes. Maybe you had the border on this also like that. Maybe you had border, and then you had like border pink, 600. So you might just like, maybe for styling purposes you want to look uniform and consistent, with your styles, and then if you have something like this on your input, of course in the focused state, but you might just need, maybe you could just say focused. Okay, I don't know, is that really supposed to be like that? But you may just like need to change your styling, and you need also to change this blinking cursor. This is, you can use this caret. I'm not sure if you just say caret. Let me just change it here. It is caret, maybe like that. Okay, the next I'm just going to talk about that I did not add here is actually line clamp. So I think it's really important. Let me just put it here, line clamp. Okay, so to demonstrate line clamp, for instance, let's say we have, so I'm just going to put another one for line clamp. So here we just say line clamp. So you can just have, for instance, a text. Maybe you have a p tag, and this is rolling, let's say 100. Okay, so this is a lot of text. As you can see here, you have all this text. Okay, so line clamp can help you specify the number of lines that you want. Okay, this used to be very hard in CSS to write a lot of CSS. Here it is only one line, so you can say line clamp. Okay, can just say line clamp, maybe just specify 3. So if you just say line clamp 3, it will simply cut 3, and then to put dot dot, it will just only get only 3 lines. If you say line clamp 1, just like this, it will just give you only 1 line, just like that. And this is used if you just are giving, for instance, a card which has description and so on and so forth. So this is a another useful Tailwind utility class. Take note that they have another one, so this one you can just say sorry. I'm just going to duplicate. They have another similar one, I think it's called truncate. So you could just also apply here. The one says truncate, I think, just like this. And truncate is only for 1 line. So you can see this one. Of course, we can just go ahead and put some padding y of 4. So you'll see that the truncate only is for 1 line. So if you just only want to get 1 line, you can simply use truncate. Line clamp is so much, I think, more favorable because you specify the number of lines that you want. Okay, so this is great. The next one is Tailwind transitions and animations. So I'm just going to create another section. Let me just go and copy the section. That we had like these group modifiers. Do we have like 2 sections in one? Okay, this is the one we started with. Just go and copy this section. I will simply just copy this one and I change. But I wanted the one with this button. With this, some of these buttons. Just copy this. So let me just make another section, and let's put this. So let's start with, so we could just have some h2, this here. Okay, just scroll down to this new section. So this one is a third concept, which is Tailwind animations, transitions, and animations. So let's start with transitions. Okay, so this one, let me just put here transitions. And in the transitions, for instance, you could find, for instance, here you are putting a hover. Okay, let's just put a simple one, not even a group or anything. Let me just remove this group. Okay, let me put this, and we have BG 900 text blue rounded. Now on hover, let's change it to something else, for instance to green. Okay, let's change it from blue to green. So if you check on this now, we have a new section. Let's give it maybe color, a background color, class, and let's say BG slate 50. You realize slate is my favorite color. So we have here this. Now if you hover here, you see this is changing to green as expected, but then it is changing immediately. So we need to add some transitions. Okay, so for instance, you can come and add a transition, of course, on the button. So for instance, you can add transition and you say all, and this one means it will apply to all properties. You can see here, and by default it puts a transition duration of 150 milliseconds. Okay, now you can just see now that it is going to do some 150 transition, but see the effect, we can put duration. So you can just come here and say duration, and then you say maybe 500. Now this is going to change, and you see that it is now smooth and it is changing really nicely. Okay, so this is really one great one. Now let's put some animation. So you might just need to put, for instance, maybe it is a sign up button, you want people to sign up, or it is a download button, you want people to download. So we can go ahead and add an animation. So by default, this actually, to demonstrate this, let me duplicate this button so that there are two now. So remove this. I'm just going to duplicate this very button. Okay, so now we can just simply have another button, but this time we can give a class name, and let me change this to loading, and let me also change this one to loader icon, just like this. Okay, so now by default, this one is supposed to go to this one. By default, Tailwind gives us some animations out of the box. Okay, so you can see we have this loading button. So we want to make this one to be rotating or animating. Okay, so they have some animation out of the box. For instance, you simply say animate, and you specify the animation you want. If you do this, they have about 4, and they have spin, ping, parse, and bounce. So spin is spinning, as you can hear the name. So you have it spinning like this, and this one can be really useful, of course. And you could of course pass this one like disabled whatsoever. You could just have something like that, okay, to not to allow people to click it. And this is used in forms, and you have seen me using this, the loading state. And by just using that, you have others, for instance, bounce. So you can have bounce, and this is going to be bouncing. Okay, that is the bounce, which is used for instance, notification bells. You have pulse. Okay, the heartbeat, that is the pulse. And then finally you have the ping, and I'd use the ping, and you saw how it works. Yeah, that is the ping. Okay, the bursting animation, and you have these ones out of the box. Okay, I'm just going to, of course, leave with spin, which is the appropriate one for this example, loading like this. Okay, so those ones are what I can say about the animations. Now the fourth one concept is, of course, Flexbox and grid utilities. Okay, so what you can just do about these ones is that, for instance, I'm just going to I've been using Flex here, but just like to simplify or talk about them just in a few, I'm just going to also create a new section. Okay, and let me just say bg ping, and let's say maybe 300 this time. And this is the fourth concept, which is Tailwind Flex and grid. So what I can just say, the first concept of Flex is if you are using icons, for instance, where we have this button. Let me just go ahead and leave this button. Now for the button which have icons, okay, the first thing you're using here, we're using Flex. By default, it gives it Flex direction raw. Okay, so if you look at this, I'm just going to say Flex here. So if you see these buttons, okay, if you look at these buttons, they have a display Flex. So by default, if you say just simply Flex, you can see this button and this button, they are now side by side, meaning by default it has a Flex raw direction, just like this. So if you just put Flex raw, everything remains the same. You can change the direction by saying col, and that is like Flex direction column. You can see now the buttons are having the Flex direction column. Okay, now you could also say Flex start, for instance, Flex start, and that of course by default they have Flex start. You could have not Flex start, you could have items. So you have the items, for instance, items center. So this, if you just say items center, items, okay, this same as justify content center. So they will make sure these, they go in the center. Of course, another one is items right. So you can have them going to the right, and this is same as going to the, this is not right end, at least not right end. Okay, so you can see they are at the end, and of course by default you have also, you can have start. Okay, they will be at the start. And by the way, notice that by default they are just by having stretch. I think this is the default behavior because you said they stretch, they finish the whole entire UI, which is sometimes frustrating. When you put two items and like buttons and you give Flex, they by default they're having items stretch, and this one makes that they finish the whole entire width. If you want them to start, you can just say start, item start, as simple as that, and you have them finishing or having the normal behavior that you expected. Okay, another thing that I just say that is useful For instance, if you have two buttons, two buttons, but if you have a button which have an icon, for instance, it has this icon here, we have this margin right. Now, in many circumstances, if the space is available, the way you are seeing here, this icon, this one has no problem. In other circumstances, okay, I think to demonstrate this, I don't know how we would do that. And it's not for only icons, it's for all even other elements, but it normally applies on icons. Let's give this one a width of maybe 24, I don't know, and height 24. I don't know if this was going to bring out what I'm just trying to explain. Let's say maybe you have this, and let's go to responsive. Can I go like to responsive and I place this? I think like I cannot place that. What I can just say is that there is a weird behavior of the icon tending not to be the same. If you have like a list like this one, and you have icons here like a checkboxes, there are some instances you find the icons are not consistent. Okay, you find one icon is big. I don't know if you have ever seen that scenario. One icon is big, another icon is small. And if you find that scenario where you have like icon one is big and they all have the same classes, it is because of flex. When the space is taken, they tend to push or they tend to squeeze the icon. Avoid that. You just put on the icons always flex shrink 0, and the minute these ones they cannot shrink, whatever whether the space is small or not, this icon cannot shrink. It will remain in the same shape, and this can be very useful. Okay, and that's what I can say about flex. It uses the gap. You have seen how I'm putting the gap. I think that's the only thing I can just talk about, like flex shrink, and even this technique I have given you for items, that and what. Now let's talk about grid. Okay, what I can just say about grid, why we use it most of the times. Okay, if I had here some things, let's just say first have a container. In this container, let's put some boxes. Okay, so you could just go ahead and put some items of a specific width, maybe 30 something, maybe 32 or 36. Let's give them a height also of maybe 16 and a BG of blue. Okay, BG blue maybe 500. Let's duplicate this to have maybe 6 of them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if you just go here, let's give them padding. So let's give this one. First thing is padding of 8. Okay, and for these buttons, let's just return them in the normal, I guess. Not flex core, just simply give them just flex, only like that. Okay, so we have these boxes. Let me first thing, I didn't show you. If I don't want to use flex for these boxes, there's one technique you can also use, which is called space. I think I didn't show you, but you take it as a bonus. You can use space 4, and this will add some gaps. So sometimes you don't need grid or you don't need flex. If you simply want to put some gap, okay, if you want to put some gap between items and you don't want to use flex or grid, you simply put space Y. Okay, and this also goes to space X. You can put space X or space Y, and this does the magic like this. Now another one, let's say if you want to use, of course, flex, you would go ahead and apply flex, and you apply a gap of 4, and maybe you also have to say flex core, and to have the same thing that we did above, just to still have this kind of behavior where you have some gaps and all that. And you can see here, instead of writing all this, you can simply write space y4. Okay, you'd simply write something like this, and it gives you the same behavior. So sometimes ask yourself if you really need flex or not. Now, for the flex purposes, okay, if you have flex, these ones, they of course they will change. Wait a minute. Give it flex and gap. Remove this core. Okay, so this one would create something to go this side. Now let's make them so many, or let's increase this one to something like 40 something. Do we have in 40s? Yeah, we have 44. So if you have like 44, okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6, let's go ahead and make them like many now, just like that. So you notice that it is going to keep on squeezing them to fit. Okay, you're going to find that it is keeping on squeezing them so that it fits in this environment. Okay, so the first thing that you can do with flex, first of all, you can just give flex wrap. There is one called flex wrap, and this can do this. Okay, it can just go and put the items, and when the items are many, it will overflow them. So if, for instance, you can see now on a small screen, we have this doing automatically. You don't need to write anything, just like that. And this is the flex wrap. Only just putting flex wrap and having things like this one, you have somehow a responsive layout. Look at this. Okay, so that is if you're working with flex. Now, if I want to use grid for the same scenario, just going to copy this down, and instead I'm just going to change these ones from blue to maybe red. Okay, so I have these ones, the red ones now, and let's use grid on these ones. The problem with flex wrap, you cannot specify how many should be there, but I can just apply grid. Okay, so I can apply grid, and of course you can also give a gap, and then you can just say I want how many. So you say grid cores, you specify the columns you want. Let's say on the big screen you want 6 or you want 5. So you can specify that I want 5 on this. Okay, you can specify how many, 1 2 3 4 5. You want 5, and others will overflow by default. Okay, and then you can just change. If you want 6, you can specify 6, and this is going to change just like that. Okay, and now this one is not somehow responsive, because you see on this screen it is causing the overflow. So that is something you should just notice. In flex wrap, the overflow is gone. Now, one thing you can also specify when you're just dealing with responsiveness in grid, I'm also going to talk about responsiveness. I think I should just use this very time to talk about responsiveness. Now, there are ways you can either use, let me just copy this also one more time, show you responsiveness with grid. Most times when you have many items, stick to grid. Okay, stick to grid. Now I have 6 here. This will mean that you have 6 columns. Okay, so I can change on small screens. Let me make these ones blue one more time. Oh, let's make them yellow. Okay, just like that. So let's just go here. This one means that you have 6 columns, and this is going to be on all screens. Now you can just say, for instance, this one should be only on large screens, and take in note that Tailwind is mobile first approach, meaning if you put this one and you look at it, it's going to be at a mean width of 1024. Okay, so this is going to be mean width, that is like screens above 1024. This is going to apply on screens above 1024. And then you can just say MD, for instance, MD, and you say this one, MD is going to be grid cores, for instance, maybe 4, and then you say SM, and you say grid cores maybe 2. Now, or you could just even just say on small screen let them be 2. So if you don't prefix anything here, this one will be used on the mobile. Then this MD, you can see it is going to be 768 pixels and above. Then this one is 1024 and above. So it will be showing those on those different screens. Now you can see now, you said now they are responsive. On this small screen, we actually show 2, just like this. Okay, if we go on the screens, you think we can show, you can see we have these ones. Now on very large screens, like just do this, on very large screens, you can see we have them 6 of them as we are reducing. So that is one way of making them responsive. Another way of making them responsive, let me go to the next one, which is actually missing an L. I'm just going to do this yellow, and I'm just going to make only 2 of them. This scenario is if you have few. If you have many items like this in a grid container, stick to responsiveness of this nature. Now if you have a section which has like 2 items just like this, okay, if you have 2 items that you have a grid and it has 2 things, for instance, 2 sides, and this is like normal layout, where you have one thing occupying like that. So we have like 2 items. You might just want these ones to occupy 50%, 50%. So the first thing is you can give this one to occupy 12. Okay, you say I need this one to occupy 12 columns. And then you can now tell these ones on 12 columns, how many should this one occupy. So they can say, I want this item to occupy, so I can just go and say grid, and to understand very well, let me remove this width and height. Okay, and instead I'm just going to put, I'm just remove also this, and instead I'm just going to go ahead and put some content. So you just put rorem like 100, the same thing in this one, so that you can set here this can be content. So we have these 2 items just like this, and you can see right now you said that we have grid cores 12, so each is occupying is trying to divide it into 12 columns. So you can just say on these 12 columns, okay, so now this whole thing is 12 columns, I can say bg maybe green 300, so that we see it. Okay, so on these, now they have divided this into 12 columns, 1 2 3 4 5 up to 12. So you can tell how many this first item should occupy, and also this item should occupy. For instance, I can say the first item I want to occupy 8, so I could just say core, and I say core span 8. So this one means that it's going to occupy 8 columns out of 12, just like this. You see that? And then this other one means it can occupy 4. So I can just say here core span 4, and that is like to finish. Now they become 12, and you can see now the whole thing has been finished. Now on responsiveness, how you can handle this, you can say this one should only apply, for instance, on LG, and then normal circumstance it can occupy core span 12, just like this. Or you can just say full. It is the same thing. And the same thing here. You can just say this should apply on large screens, but on the small screens it occupies core span full. So this will make the layout responsive. Okay, so now you can see wait a second. They make core span full, LG core span, then the other one. Okay, I just made some typo here. Core, just like this. Okay, so on LG they are occupying like this. This one is taking 8, this one is taking 4, and you can just give them whichever percentage you want. Now if you go to responsive, as you go on other screens, you can see they are taking the full column. I think this is just the easiest way to actually style the two or three layer columns. Okay, but if you have so many items, stick to the above one. Okay, so one more technique I just want to show you is also about flex. Okay, let's just duplicate still one of these ones. Actually it's very one which has 2, and we will use flex. Okay, of course for flex to do the same thing, one you would say flex, display flex, and instead of this you can just give width full, I think which is by default, I guess, or you could even give a minimum width or a max width, whatever you want. And now instead of giving them this one, you can just come here and say this one should take a width of maybe you can also just say out of 12. For instance, you can just say 8 out of 12, and then this other one you can just say that you can occupy width of 8 4 out of 12, just like this. Okay, it also has width, and you can also just have this one, and you can see it will calculate the percentages for you. Okay, you can just see here, and maybe change the background colors, a BG maybe purple, and even this one to purple. Okay, so you can just have this to having purple, and now you can just go and say on this one to only apply on LG. So you can just say this apply on LG, and otherwise it can have width full, just like this. Okay, and even this one you can just say width full, and then on LG to have 4 out of 12, and this one will make them also responsive. Okay, if you just go here, should make them responsive. No, really. Let's just say it is saying with this full LG this. How about if we just say just with it? Does it make sense to say like with this 12 out of 12? Like, that would be weird, right? Can you say 12 out of 12? That would be really weird. And that's like I always find, like, issues with the let's just do this also for the other one. With Flex, it has like some weird behaviors. Like you think you have just like you have it, but then you have this kind of behaviors, and you started like playing around with the Flex wrap now, things like that. That's why in responsiveness, I tend to move to grid. Somehow it is really straightforward, okay, rather than Flex. Okay, so you can just like really try to play around with also Flex, okay, but you look at this now. Now that's like because of Flex wrap, we just put here, okay. That's because of the Flex wrap. It cannot allow to do that. What one thing I just want to do to show you, anyways, and I think you can also just simply just give them typical width. Okay, for instance, here you could just say 50%. I think it still works. Like you say, they just say here 80. Can I just say like 60%? Just like this. Width a 60%, and let's just say on big screens let's say 100%, and on LG let's say width is 60%. And let me just try to apply this concept, and let me also remove this width 4. I think by default it should be width 4. Let me also put on this one, and let's say this one is going to be 40%, and on small screen should have the full width. So you just have the same scenario here. This one occupying 60%, this one 40%, and then let's go and see in the small screen area. This is what I just like find the like really not making sense. Like we are on a small screen and they're still having these percentages applying. Like this one is not applying on small screen. It is still applying this weird stuff, and you have to do maybe Flex wrap or whatever. So what I wanted to show you is let me just make this one maybe orange, okay, is that you can switch their orders, okay. For instance, this one might be by default they will be stuck. Let me just do this anyways, Flex wrap to show you what I just want. You can see how quickly it can become bloody with this. But I have two sections like this. Maybe this was an image and this was some text or buttons, whatever. Now sometimes you want to switch these positions. You want this one to go up and the button to go down. Now they have some order, okay. So for instance, I don't know if by default, so you can just say for instance order 2. I think you can just say for instance order 2, and on LG to have order 1. Now if you're supposed to specify for all of them, or you can specify only one. Yeah, so you can see now they have switched places, okay. So you can just use this technique of order in Flex to switch up positions, okay. This one to take like position 2 on small screens, and it takes position 1 of course on the other screen. And I just don't know how you can just like work with this. I don't know if this one works if we have, for instance, width of, for instance, screen. Does it just work with that? Sometimes you have to give like specific width, and these are the problems. I just like say, let me just first give like max width of like 6 pixels. I don't know if this one just going to solve a problem. Yeah, so you can just like stick to also max width, and they just say maybe this one solves the responsive problem. Still no. Well, I wanted to show you that this one can switch up positions. Okay, it can switch up positions, and you can see clearly I really use Flex for these kind of things. I use Flex like on really small layouts, and if you have big layouts like big sections and high level sections, use grid. And then on the buttons, things which are very tiny, with icons stuff, use Flex. Okay, and then next, we have spent a lot of time on really Flex, and it was, I think you have learned a lot on Flex and grid. Then we have this typography. I think what I can just say on typography is maybe some few things. Okay, let's just say have another section. Okay, this one just give it BG orange 100, and let's have like h2 saying class name padding y of 8, and let's give it text maybe 5 pixels, font bold. So this is just like the styling, the normal ones we use. If you go back here, like everyone knows how to do this. We'll of course put there some text. Welcome to my YouTube channel, please subscribe, just like this. Okay, just you have some text like this. Now we can start with the ones that you are not familiar. For instance, leading. So if you say leading 10, just like this, you can see it adds line 8. And if you just come here, this adds line 8. Okay, and the normal one is always fine. Okay, and you can see this is 2 rem. You can also just specify like 4 rem. You can specify by yourself just like that, and to still also work. Okay, so if you want to change the line 8, you can use leading. Okay, the another one is of course tracking. So this tracking, you can just say tracking, and you can see it has this. For instance, tight, it has tight, wider, widest, or even, for instance, wider. And this one adds the this letter spacing. If you just check on tracking, is letter spacing. So if you want to specify letter spacing, you can just go ahead and use tracking. Okay, and then of course uppercase, lowercase, those ones are normal. You can just change everything into uppercase. Instead of using JavaScript, this could be just using styles, or you could change to lowercase. The same thing, you could change to lowercase, and this is for the text transform. So transform lowercase. Okay, let me stick to, so you could also say capitalize. Okay, and capitalize is going to leave it in the capitalize. Okay, you can see every letter is in capital. That's what capitalize does. Okay, yeah, so it is like what to do with text or typography. Then we have gradient utilities. So I'm just going to put another simple section. Okay, I'll put this section, and let me just leave it with this. let me give it create some things. For instance, dot padding y, or maybe 8, and let me just give it some text. Lorem, let's say lorem, and let's look at this. Okay, so you have this text. I could just go ahead and just say, for instance, so we could start with linear gradient. So for instance, we can just say I think it is gradient. Okay, it is bg gradient, sorry. So bg gradient, so you say bg gradient, and you can specify the direction to top, to bottom, to so you can say, for instance, to right. So this one is to top right. Okay, if you want to right, you can just say to right, just like this, linear gradient to right. Now you can start like with, for instance, you can just say from, and if you specify, for instance, from slate, maybe 800, just like this, it will give it a shade coming from that color going to transparent. Okay, so by default, if you don't give the 2 color, it will just simply take this going to the transparency. Okay, sometimes this is just enough, and you can just also make this one rounded to look nice. Okay, just like this. Okay, you could also specify 2, so you can say from, and you say to maybe pink, to pink 800. So you can just say that it comes from this going to pink 800. So you can see now we have 2 colors and giving a nice gradient. Okay, maybe just give a text white. And then you can also specify the third color, the middle one. So you have the first color, last color, and the middle color. So you can just say via, okay, and you can say via blue 800. Okay, so you can just say from this color via this, and you have something like this. Okay, so now we have 3 colors. Okay, so one last thing that you can also do is, if for instance I go ahead and duplicate this here, and let's give this a class name and give space y of 8 to give some margin. Now I could just go ahead and add some more things. For instance, you can give percentages. Okay, so we have this same thing, but we can give percentages. For instance, we can just go here and we say, for instance, from, okay, and you can specify the percentage. For instance, from 10% or 15%, just like this. Now this will first go and starts, it will first occupy 15% before it changes to the another color, to the via color. You can also go ahead and say for the via, I want it to start on maybe 10%, or just like this. You get? So you can just go ahead and modify, so you can see 10% where it is starting from. You can just so go ahead and say, for instance, the 2, also you can give it maybe at 30%. So you can just also do something like this, and you can specify where the 2 should end or start from. Okay, so you can just go and specify these, but sometimes just defining them like this is very okay. Okay, that is the gradient. Dark mode support, this is really important. First of all, is to learn how to specify the dark mode. So to do is dark mode, you can do maybe three things to Tailwind supports dark mode out of the box. The first thing you have to do is you have to go to your Tailwind config, okay, and you can just go here and change, I think it's mode, then just say you can say dark mode. And the first thing that you need to do is you can go and change dark mode not selector to class. What? Do we need to do that anymore now? I think they changed dark mode, customizing selector. I think by default it's supposed to be class. So they're saying toggling dark mode manually. If you want support dark mode manually instead of relying on the operating system, use the selector strategy instead of the media strategy. So in the Tailwind, you have to specify this. It used to be class. Did it change? When did I last use dark mode? So you just have to come here and just change this to this. That is the first step to use dark mode. And you can just go ahead now to your HTML and specify the mode that you are in. So you can see now instead of dark mode, you just have to use this. Okay, for instance, you can just go and specify this class. If you want to use, for instance, the whole website in dark mode, you can just go to your layout and you look for the HTML and simply give it class of dark. That means now you are coding in the dark mode. Okay, everything you're coding is in the dark mode. Now to test this, let's go to our page, this one, and specify the dark mode. Let's specify, for instance, the new section. Okay, and for this section we just want to put like a h2. We could just even copy our heading with the one we just put here. In fact, they just copy this whole entire section and come and paste it here. Okay, so for instance, BG orange would be in right. So just go here and say, for instance, in dark mode, we can just simply use BG slate a 900. Okay, and of course the same thing to this text. In the light mode, let's say text. In light mode, we say text slate 900, but in the dark mode, we want it to have text slate, for instance, 100. So you could just define something like this. This is how you prefix. For the light mode, you don't need to put anything. For the dark mode, you have to put this keyword dark, and then you specify the class you want to run in the dark mode. So if we just go back here and to this section, so since we are working in the dark mode by default, you can see we are in the dark mode. And what tells the system that you are in the dark mode is simply this layout keyword we put here. If I put light mode now, okay, if I put light mode right now, and you go back here, this is going to change the color. So you see, now we are in the light mode, it changes to this. And if you want dark mode, so you change here. And the installing of Next themes to change it is simply changing only here. And the only thing it is doing is changing it globally. You can do this by yourself, and you change this globally using a context API or anything, and you can just manipulate this light mode or dark mode. I think that's the only thing you just need to understand, that you can turn on the dark mode, light mode, in the layout. Next is the responsive design. I've already talked about responsive in Flexbox. Let's talking about on the theme and extending the customization. So for every property you have, I'm just going to use box shadow for this example. For every property you have in your in Tailwind, it can be extended or it can be themed. For instance, if you go to box shadow, you will see that you have different shadows, and we'll have our shadows. You see you have shadow SM, shadow LMD, LG, XL, and they stop on 2XL. They have also this inner and none. So you can go ahead and use these gradients. For instance, we can create a card or a box and we give it the gradient. That is very easy. For instance, in this very section, let me just go to another section. So in another section, just like this, we can have a box. So let me just have a box of width maybe 40 something, 48, and the height of 24. And we can just go ahead and give it shadow, for instance, shadow 2XL, and this is the largest. Okay, that is the largest, and let's give it some background. So just say BG slate maybe 300. So if you just go and see this down here, you can see I have this and it has this shadow. Okay, so they give you a way to extend your shadows. For instance, we might just need to add a new shadow. So for instance, if I just went to 93 beautiful shadows, I might just like have my unique shadow I want to add, or to add all these shadows. Let's go and get a weird one. For instance, this one, copy this. Of course, the first technique would be using at apply. So you could just go and use gold CSS and simply say create a custom class. For instance, custom shadow. Okay, custom shadow, and put this here, box shadow, like this, and then I can just come and say custom box shadow, and I just come here to this page and remove this shadow to Excel, and let me just add my custom, and boom, we should have mine. So you can see I have now this custom box shadow. Now this is going back to the CSS. Okay, I want to simply get all the available plus a new one that I have, so that I can keep on using it in with Tailwind, not just creating the one in CSS like this. Okay, so we can extend the box shadow, and how to use extend is simply going and use theming. Okay, so inside your module tailwind.config, we can just go inside the theme and we can extend box shadow. Okay, so for instance, I can copy that, and let's go to Tailwind config, inside the theme and inside the extend. So here I can just go ahead and extend the box shadow. Let's first see they didn't extend. They have the background here. So down here I can just go ahead and add the box shadow. So just simply cut the box shadow and add it in here. Okay, so you can have box shadow and you can give it a name, any name you want. For instance, the Excel, since they stop on 2, you can add this, and we go and add hours. So this one you see here, we can just simply cut this and Tailwind config. Let's remove all this and replace it with this. Okay, remove that. This, I have this, okay, and even this, just like that. So we have this now is our custom shadow, and we are calling it 3XL. You can just go ahead and even for more new ones, you can just go and get, like, you have this, for instance, you can just go and give this one any other name. Let's go and give this one, for instance, a name. So down here I can specify one more. After this I can just go down here and specify another one. Instead of this, I'm just going to say, for instance, maybe custom. Okay, custom, just like this. And of course, just go ahead and put double quotes, and you can remove this. Okay, so now we have two shadows we have created, and if you just go, we have simply gone to the theme and we have extended it. Just say box shadow and then add these other custom ones. So if you go to page, now on this, remove this, and if you say shadow and you place this, okay, of course it is loading. Now you can see they have all these ones, even including the one you have added, shadow 3XL plus shadow custom. Okay, they add it simply like that, and a simple adding, you have it. If I just click shadow custom, okay, I have the auto completion, sorry, working for me. Now I have this one. Okay, so you can see you can extend all these properties in your Tailwind config, and it's not for only box shadow, this is for everything. Font family, colors, everything. You can just go ahead and you theme it. You can say in the theme you can extend font family, for instance, add your own font families, and so on and so forth. The good thing is that whatever you add in, they add it in the auto completion globally in this Tailwind. So next on our list is using this Tailwind config package, and this package is called Tailwind merge. So TW merge, TW merge. You can just say search that npm this one. Now, what is the purpose of this? Now, to give you where this is more useful, let's go and create a component inside here. Okay, just going to say maybe my button dot tsx. Okay, button dot tsx rfc, just like this. And now let's say this is returns a normal button. Okay, and let's give this one some text. We could just say, for instance, get started. Okay, let's give it some class names. Okay, so for instance, let's say give it bg blue, maybe 800, padding y of 2.5, px of 6, rounded, just like this. So this is a normal button. Just going to get it and take it to here. Now here, down here, after this, I can just simply go and bring in this button. Okay, just like this. So as time goes, you want, of course, to, let's see this button. So the button is here. Let me just go ahead and give it some, let's go and give it some padding y of 8. Sorry, just like this, padding y of 8. Okay, so let's say even the color, let's give it the color. So by default, I have this one as text white. Okay, so let's say we want to now overwrite these ones just like this. Okay, so this is a nice button, but I want to change this. Most times you want to pass in the class name and the text, so we'll just say here. Okay, we could just even say button props. Let's first say it is going to take in the title plus the class name. Okay, now title plus the class name, and let's get here say type. We just say type button props. We could just say copy these very ones the way they are here, just like this, and we say title is going to be a string, and class name is also going to be a string but not required. So you could just say put question mark here and remove these brackets like this. So we have something like this, and let's pass in here this button props just like that. Okay, I can just go here and I use title right away, title, and I'm just going also to use this class name. So the easiest way how we can just do this is appending it at the last here, and you change this into backticks. Okay, something like this, and then just go ahead and first remove this and also this. Okay, and then here we could just go ahead and just concatenate this class name like this. Okay, so this one looks actually okay, like they will just concatenate other classes here. Now if we just go here, of course we need to pass in the title. Okay, and we say get started. So now we should just be good to go. If you just go back here, we are back to the one we have. Let's just change this to something like background of orange to text of maybe yellow. So we could just say pass in the class name, and we could just say bg orange. Okay, and you just say text red. Okay, just like this. Now chances are it does not work. Okay, so you can just see, like, we just here, you may think we have to refresh, but you can just like refresh and you still have this, but we have passed in a class name with bg orange and text red. Could even just say text red, maybe 200. Okay, so the problem we have right now is we are having conflict. At least for the text it has changed, but for the background you can see it has refused, and in some cases even the text will refuse. And this is because Tailwind, like right now, if we copy these classes direct here to the button and I paste them here, okay, this would show that there is a conflict between these classes, text red 200 and this one. And then also in the bg, I think we didn't give bg correctly. If you just say, for instance, bg orange 800, okay, so you can just see that there is a conflict. But if you pass them from the other side, if I just cut them here and we pass them from this side of the button here, okay, you will not see the conflict. Okay, you will not see the conflict, but we want these ones to be taken serious. The ones we pass here, we want them to override the one we have this side. Now chances you can put and it change like this, but if I restart the machine and run this again, these ones will not work. Okay, because it is just like a chance that these ones come first, but Tailwind, it is going to be it can bring these ones first, or it bring these ones first. So to be able to solve this conflict, always is use this plugin called Tailwind Merge. Okay, So the first thing is to install this one. Just go ahead here and say npm install tailwind merge. And how it works is somehow simple. Okay, it simply prioritizes the ones you pass in. So for instance, if you import it and you have some classes, these ones and this one, it will prioritize the second one, the second argument that you pass. Okay, so that's it. If you have two classes, this and these ones, it will take the second one. Okay, so it has finished. The only thing we have to do is importing it. Okay, so we go to our button component and let's import it here. And then the only thing we just want it to do is, this time you don't need to do this. Okay, simply remove this class name. Okay, so the only thing you just need to do is, let me first copy these, cut these ones. So you simply just need to bring this tw. So just say here is going to be, I think you still need, do you still need the backticks? I'm not sure, but we could just say tw merge. I think we just still need the backticks. So we could just say tw merge. How does this one work? One more time. Can I say dollar? Say tw merge. Okay, and then here we can pass in the first ones. These are the ones we want to be by default, and whichever ones we pass in, we're just going to post the class name, just like this. So here it is going to ensure that whatever we pass in as a class name will overwrite the existing ones. Okay, so this one now ensures that every time you pass in something or you change something, they are going to be taken serious and will not have you weird behaviors. So it is one nice package that you can use, and it's one sort of the conflicts. The one plugin that I also normally use is the Tailwind Forms. So Tailwind Forms. Okay, so this plugin is for, you can just scroll down to this one. This is one plugin I always use, Tailwind Forms. Okay, and this is normally when I work with other tools, like you have seen me using Flowbyte all the time. Okay, so I'm just going to show you something here from Flowbyte, and I show you how to use also this one. I don't know if my internet is done. I don't know why it always does this. Now if I refresh one more time. So if I just go here, I'm just going to search for the card, just like this. And I just simply want the card with form inputs. If I copy this, okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this card with inputs, this one. Scroll down. Now if you just click on this, you can see their styles. Okay, just copy this and let's go to another section. Okay, and let's put this form. The only things you need to change are the class, of course, and Ctrl H, replace. The other things, maybe you can change what? The for. So just Ctrl F, Ctrl H, just put HTML4, Okay, and now we are good to go. So if you just go and check here on the UI, I think we should have a form. Okay, so since this is in the dark mode, okay, we can just go ahead and first change this to, we have some one error here, HTML4, the ones we had before, I guess. Okay, I just go to layout. I first put it back in the light mode, so just going to put here light, or just remove it entirely. It will be default back to light mode or to the system. Okay, so we have this, and now you look at this bold thing. Are you seeing this? Now if you just go and check on the design of this input here, if you just go and check on this input, okay, you have, for instance, this, you can see we have BG gray 50, border gray 300, text this, round focus around this, focus border, and you can see focus border is blue 500, and but right now if you focus, for some reason you have this weird color, and let's see, we have focus, yeah, so the focus supposed to be this blue, but for some reason it gives you these default stylings for the inputs. So okay, to normalize these stylings, I always use this plugin, the Tailwind Forms, and it's very easy to use. Simply just install it, and it gives you the default nice looking stuff. Okay, I just say always use it either with Tailwind UI or Flowbyte. Okay, and then copy this the plugin and just go to the Tailwind config and put it. So go to the Tailwind config and the plugins here, let's put it here, as simple as that. Now if you just go back, let's just wait for a second, and now look at how our forms is now looking smart. Okay, so it removes the default behavior of forms and it gives them these nice styles. Okay, great. I think you have now seen how to use these Tailwind forms and how useful it is. So the last one was to be the Tailwind libraries. Now there are so many libraries, you should at least learn one. First of all, I've already showed you to use Flowbyte. You can use really Flowbyte to get components and even things like, for instance, forms, buttons, so on, like the styles which are raw. You just get like raw styles like this. Okay, another one you should just learn is maybe Shad. You have seen me using it all the time. If you have been following me, at least learn Shad. There is a lot of component libraries for Tailwind. Go ahead and learn at least one. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. It has taken some time, but it was worth it, and I think you found it useful. And if you have any new suggestions of what we would have added on the list, you share it in the comment section. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe. I will see you in the next one.